Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, September 9th, 2015. I am Dave Biddle, and I am joined by Alex Gleitman. Alex, first topic, I want to talk about what JT Barrett's role is going to be this year. I just cannot fathom that he's going to be a guy that just sits on the bench and comes in the game during garbage time in the fourth quarter. However, that's what we saw at the Virginia Tech game. That could be the blueprint for the entire season. I just can't imagine JT coming off a season where he broke the all-time touchdown record in the Big Ten with 45, breaking Drew Brees' record. I can't imagine him just rotting away on the bench. Your thoughts on what JT Barrett's role is going to be for the remainder of this season?
Yeah, David, I think it's going to be real interesting because, I mean, if Ohio State was going to play anyone tough over the next, few games, I think all the games up until at least even the Penn State game at home could be a snoozer. But, that might be the next tough game Ohio State has on October 17th. So, if any of those games were tough, I'd say, maybe JT could be a change of pace guy. Like, I think in the Virginia Tech game when they came out at halftime, took the opening kick, marched down the field, Braxton Miller touchdown from Cardale Jones. I think if they maybe didn't score on that drive, maybe Urban would have thrown JT in there just to see if he could change the pace up and just change things around a little bit. Ohio State's offense was stalling along in that second quarter. So I think maybe that could have been his role. But I think, over the next, the Hawaii game, Northern Illinois, Western Michigan, Indiana, and then Maryland, at least before Penn State, I think you're going to see a lot of JT Barrett because, I think those games are going to get out of hand pretty quickly. I think maybe Urban gives him a series earlier in the game because I think he knows Ohio State will probably run over all of those teams. So it's a little bit difficult, but I think you're right. I think it's going to be, as long as he's playing well, I think it's going to be the Cardale Jones show. In games that are close or big-time games. This is, he won the quarterback job, and I think he's going to be the quarterback. But as I said, I think, if things are stalling out for a longer period of time than Urban Meyer wants, maybe he does throw JT Barrett in there to see if he has more success running the offense for a drive.
I think you make a good point about the schedule. JT's probably going to have a relatively big role just because they're not going to be challenged by anybody, in my opinion, until Michigan State, in theory. That's November 21st. Now, there's going to be a team that we're not expecting that gives them a good game. Just like the Penn State game last year. That should not have been a game that went to overtime. The Buckeyes were actually lucky to win that game, you could make the argument. But that game, Ohio State and Penn State, that should not have went to overtime. But it did, because funny things happen in college football. But you're right, the schedule, I just don't see a team that's going to give Ohio State really a game until Michigan State, perhaps Minnesota, but that's in Columbus. And, for a fan, it's almost takes the fun out of it a little bit when you don't have a big game. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, as you said, even, dating back to the Tressel years, you had all those Purdue games. Hell, Indiana has given Ohio State trouble the last 4 years. And Ohio State hasn't been able to stop them, even though they've been able to outscore them. Maybe it's Rutgers on the road. The first time Rutgers is hosting Ohio State, it's a night game. In New Brunswick, maybe that's the game. Maybe Penn State does get up to play Ohio State as they did last year. Maybe that's a tough game. I don't think Illinois will be a problem. November, Minnesota, Michigan State, Michigan, I think those are all going to be tough games. So, maybe someone does surprise Ohio State. But, on paper, as you said, they really shouldn't have another tough game until Michigan State at home. But as we know in college football, you said things are funny. It's not going to go exactly as planned. Ohio State is going to have to, just like they did at Penn State last year, they're going to have to come, face some challenges. They're not playing well, and they're going to have to gut out a win, I think, if they want to, complete another undefeated season.
Ohio State gets 4 players back this week: Joey Bosa, Jalen Marshall, Dontre Wilson, and Corey Smith. We're going to get a chance to interview Urban Meyer after practice tonight, and one of my questions will be, do these guys get their jobs back right away? Well, let's talk about that before we even get a chance to ask Coach Meyer about that. I think Bosa will get his job back right away. The other guys I'm not so sure about because the guys that filled in on offense did pretty well. If you're Jalen Marshall, are you going to immediately unseat Braxton Miller? I don't think so. Are you going to unseat Ezekiel Elliott as a punt returner? Yes, I think Jalen Marshall will move right in there as a punt returner, but will be a backup on offense. I think the rest of the offensive guys that are coming back, Corey Smith and Dontre Wilson, they'll be backups. But I do think Joey Bosa is going to start. Maybe they'll throw Sam Hubbard in there and Joey Bosa will come in after, the first series or something. But your thoughts on that? What do you think the roles of the 4 guys coming off suspensions will be, Alex?
Yeah, I could see Urban sending a message like, you guys, you screw up, you don't just come back and get your jobs back right away. But at the end of the day, I think, as you mentioned on that punt return, I think Urban's going to play that over and over and over again in his head. And I think Jalen will probably be the first guy on punt return. I think that would be probably a smart move on Urban's part. But I could definitely see, the guys who worked hard in camp, the Braxton Millers, the Curtis Samuels getting the nod over the John Trays and the Jalen Marshalls. I could see Paris Campbell or Johnny Dixon getting the nod over Corey Smith for that first drive. So I do agree with you, Dave. I think, and maybe, I would assume Bosa would start right away, but maybe they do throw Hubbard in there or Jalen Holmes in there for the first series. It's kind of a, all right, now you guys are finally back. You sit the first series, now you're back. So I could definitely see that, and I think that's the way it's going to go. But I'm interested to see what they do, what Urban does say tonight about those guys. As far as some of the other positions out there, I mean, not suspensions, but is Jack Willoughby the kicker for the rest of the year? Could Sean Neuenberger unseat him? Defensive tackle, how did he feel Tommy Shutt played? What's the depth chart there? So there's going to be a lot of interesting things coming out of the depth chart this week, I think. And if it's not Jalen Marshall or Corey Smith starting opposite Mike Thomas, who does start opposite Mike Thomas? Is it Paris Campbell? Is it Johnny Dixon? Is it James Clark? Those are the three guys who saw the field against Virginia Tech. So I think you guys are going to have an interesting press conference on your hand or interview on your hand later tonight.
Yeah, no question about it. It's always entertaining. And this week we didn't get a chance to have the Monday press luncheon with Coach Meyer, which is always a big deal because they were playing football that day. So kind of a condensed week. So looking forward to interviewing Coach Meyer, plus some players and assistant coaches after practice tonight at 6:30. So make sure you keep it locked to Bucknuts. We will have full coverage for you tonight on that. Real quick, Alex, before I let you go, big visit this weekend on the recruiting front. Antoine Jackson, 4-star defensive tackle from Georgia, making the trip up to Columbus for the Hawaii game. I bet he wishes he was going to Honolulu, but we'll hopefully Columbus treats him well. Give some insights on Antoine Jackson. Where do you think he's going to land? Where have you crystal balled him? How close is it? Just tell the listeners what they need to know about Antoine Jackson.
Yeah, this is a tough one to read because Antoine keeps a lot of things close to the vest. His inner circle has done a good job of keeping things close to the vest. Right now, a lot of the sources down south have been telling us Auburn over the last few weeks that they're going to be the pick. Antoine and his father are very close. I forget exactly what it is. His father's was sick in the past or something along those lines, and so maybe being closer to home, going to Auburn. We've heard the rumblings that maybe the move. He was at the Auburn-Louisville game last week in Atlanta, although, you can't be a recruit at that game because it was a neutral site. He did like what he saw out of the Auburn defense. He said a decision could be coming soon. He wanted to visit both schools for home games. Bill Purelick had a great article on Antoine on the Bucknuts homepage in the front row, so definitely check that out for you VIP members. But Antoine did say he's going to take an unofficial visit to Ohio State this weekend with plans to come back for an official visit. So to me, that's a really good sign that Antoine's paying money out of his own pocket, either with his coach or his father this weekend, to come up to Ohio State, make the trip. It's probably about an 8-hour drive from the Atlanta area to come up and see the Buckeyes in action. He wants to see, the team up close and personal, get a chance to meet with Larry Johnson, Urban Meyer once again, just see the feeling he gets on campus. And I think, Ohio State, they felt pretty good about their chances of landing Antoine after his second unofficial campus for Friday Night Lights. Things kind of maybe, I don't want to say they cooled a little bit, but confidence wasn't as flying high from then until now. So this will be a really good chance for Ohio State either to give a last-ditch effort to land Antoine or maybe even possibly seal the deal. So definitely a big-time visit. I think Ohio State's in the mix more than people down south, our sources down south think they are. And I think this unofficial visit would probably prove that.
Great stuff out of Alex Gleitman. Alex mentioned VIP membership. If you're not a VIP member, try our 30-day free trial. What a great time to try that. The season has already started, so try our 30-day free trial. Make sure Bucknuts is giving you everything you want in an Ohio State website. Try our 30-day free trial while it still lasts. Thanks again to Alex Gleitman, and thanks to you for tuning into the show. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a great day. Take it away, best damn band in the land.